Welcome to Blackman Folktales. Kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel. And don't forget to like and comment. The Last Call, the girl who abandoned her mother. Part 2. The sky darkened slowly that evening as soft winds rustled the weary mango tree in front of Mama Ebo's house. The smell of approaching rain crept through the open window where Mama Ebo sat weakly on her bed, the weight of years pressing heavily on her frail shoulders. Her fingers trembled as they traced the outline of the small wooden box sitting quietly on her lap, a box that held the last treasure she had to give, the family necklace, a simple gold chain with a tiny, one locket shaped like a heart. It was old, passed down by her grandmother, and then her mother before her. She had kept it for Amara, believing that one day her daughter would wear it proudly, remembering the woman who had given everything for her sake. With a soft sigh and great effort, Mama Ebo lifted the box and called weakly, "Amara, my daughter, come here." Her voice was thin, fragile as smoke, but it carried across the small house. Amara, seated near the door scrolling endlessly through her phone, barely glanced up. "What now, Mama? Can't you let me rest?" she snapped, irritation sharp in her voice. But Mama Ebo only smiled softly, motioning for her to come closer. Reluctantly, Amara stood, her annoyance clear in her curled lip and frowning eyes. She stalked to the bedside where Mama Ebo, hands shaking, opened the small box and held out the necklace. "Take this, my child. It is yours. It will remind you, of me, of your home, of the women who came before us. One day you may need this memory when the world turns cold." Her voice broke, her eyes shining with unspoken tears. But Amara scoffed, stepping back as if the necklace were a cursed thing. "Mama, please. What will I do with that old rubbish? Look at it, it's ancient. I'm going to America soon. I have real jewelry there, diamonds, gold, designer chains. Not this village nonsense." She laughed harshly, flipping her hair and turning away. The fragile necklace fell from her mother's trembling fingers onto the blanket, forgotten and unwanted. Mama Ebo's heart clenched as she stared at the rejected gift, her vision blurred with tears. She clutched the blanket weakly, biting back a sob, knowing the moment marked the final severing of the bond she had spent a lifetime building. Her daughter was lost to her now, lost to a world of glitter and empty promises. For a long moment after Amara left the room, silence filled the space like heavy fog. Mama Ebo closed the box gently, laying it beside her pillow as if it held her last breath. Her heart beat heavily against her fragile ribs, each thought echoing her sorrow. She whispered a quiet prayer into the gathering darkness, asking God to forgive her daughter, to protect her from the heartbreak that surely weighted down the path she had chosen. Outside, the wind sighed against the house, rattling the old zinc roof, and the faint roll of distant thunder warned of the coming storm. Mama Ebo stared at the ceiling with tired eyes, feeling the cold fingers of fear and loneliness grip her chest. She knew, in the deepest part of her soul, that the time left to her was short, that her daughter's betrayal would be the wound that finished her. But still, hope clung stubbornly in her heart, fragile as a flame in the wind. Maybe, just maybe, Amara would turn back. Maybe there was still time to heal what pride and ambition had broken. The next morning dawned grey and cold, unusual for their small town, as the heavy clouds hung low over the rooftops. At the clinic, the young doctor arrived early, his face lined with fresh worry as he flipped through Mama Ebo's medical file. The news was not good. The old woman's heart was weakening fast, the asthma attacks were no longer mere inconveniences, they were deadly threats now. Each wheezing breath, each sleepless night was pushing her closer to the edge of life. He sighed deeply, knowing that without someone constantly by her side to administer her medicine and watch her breathing, she would not last long. He folded the file and walked slowly down the dusty path to Mama Ebo's house. Amara was seated on the low cement step outside, her phone in hand, smiling faintly as she exchanged messages with Jason. She barely noticed the doctor approach until he cleared his throat, casting a long shadow over her. "Amara, we need to talk. Now," he said firmly, his voice edged with quiet urgency. Amora rolled her eyes and stood, brushing invisible dust from her short dress. Doctor, I hope you didn't come to repeat what you said yesterday. Mama will be fine. She always survives. God is with her. But the doctor frowned, shaking his head. No, Amora. You don't understand. She will not survive the next attack if she is left alone. Her heart is failing fast. The asthma has worsened into a dangerous heart disease. If you go away again, if you leave her without care, she could die in hours. His words hung in the air like a shadow, pressing against her, but Amora only laughed softly, dismissively. Doctor, please. You sound like Mama. Always drama. Always dying tomorrow. She's fine. You'll see. I have plans. I can't waste my life sitting by her bed forever. The doctor stared at her in disbelief, sadness creeping into his eyes. She's your mother, Amora. The woman who gave everything for you. How can you abandon her now? But Amora only shrugged, checking her phone again as Jason's new message flashed across the screen. Miami, babe. First class ticket ready. Her heart fluttered, not for her mother's life, but for the promise of escape. The doctor sighed, defeated, knowing that words would not pierce the wall Amora had built around her selfish heart. I have done my duty, he murmured, turning to leave. If she dies, you will carry that forever, Amora. Her blood on your hands. Think carefully. But the girl did not listen. Her mind was already far away, across oceans and dreams. Behind her, the small house stood silent and sad, its walls steeped in sorrow. Inside, Mama Ebo coughed weakly, clutching the blanket against her thin chest, her ears catching only fragments of the conversation outside. She closed her eyes, tears slipping down her hollow cheeks. She knew what her daughter had chosen. The path of glitter and gold, leaving her mother to die alone. The doctor's warning echoed in the wind as he walked away, unheard, unheeded. And above, the heavy sky darkened a little more. On the morning of her departure, the house felt different, still, hushed, as if holding its breath. Mama Ebo sat quietly in her chair by the window, watching the faint sunlight filter through the worn curtain. Her heart was heavy with a strange knowing, something within her whispered that this might be the last day she would see her daughter. She listened to the soft rustle of clothing and the occasional creak of the floor as Amora packed in her room, her suitcase snapping shut, the zippers pulling tight over fine dresses and new shoes bought with Jason's money. Mama Ebo wanted to speak, to beg her child to stay, but the words caught in her throat like thorns. At last, she gathered what strength she had and called softly, Amora, my child, come. Sit with me for a while. The day is long, the flight is far. Just a moment, please. Her voice trembled, thin as spider silk, but Amora only sighed in irritation, appearing in the doorway with her bag in hand, her eyes already distant. Mama, I told you. I'm only going to visit a friend. I'll be back soon, she lied, her smile stiff and false. But Mama Ebo knew. She could see it in her daughter's restless glance, the hurried tapping of her fingers on the suitcase handle. This was no small visit. It was an escape, a goodbye wrapped in lies. The old woman reached out a trembling hand. Stay for the weekend, at least. Help me take my medicine. The doctor said. Amora pulled away sharply, her face hardening. Mama, stop. You'll be fine. You always are. I can't miss this opportunity because of your endless sickness. You want me to be poor forever? To rot in this village like you? No, Mama. I deserve more. Her words stabbed deep, cutting the old woman's heart until it bled. Mama Ebo felt the air leave her lungs, the light dim in her eyes. I only wanted to see you happy, safe, she whispered brokenly. But Amara was already turning, dragging her bag to the door. The moment stretched like a dying breath as Amara paused at the threshold, looking back briefly at the small, crumbling room, the frail figure hunched in the chair, the glint of the forgotten necklace catching the light on the table. For a heartbeat, guilt flickered in her chest, but it vanished as quickly as it came, burned away by visions of Miami's sunlit beaches, of Jason's warm arms, of freedom. Without another word, without a touch, a kiss, or even a glance of kindness, Amora stepped out into the waiting car, her heels clicking sharply on the cement. The door closed behind her with a quiet finality, sealing the old woman in darkness and sorrow. Mama Ebo sat alone, listening to the fading sound of the engine as it carried her daughter far away, perhaps forever. A soft sigh escaped her lips, carrying her last hope into the still morning air. She closed her eyes, feeling the shadow of death draw near, knowing that the goodbye she had received was no goodbye at all. Miami welcomed Amora like a seductive queen, her glittering skyscrapers rising above the blue waters, her palm-lined streets humming with life and pleasure. The airport's cool air conditioning kissed Amora's skin as she stepped off the plane, her heart racing with excitement, her mind far from the quiet village and the frail figure of Mama Ebo. Jason was waiting, his white smile gleaming as he wrapped his strong arms around her, whispering promises of luxury and freedom into her ear. "Welcome to your new life, baby," he said, his voice smooth as silk. Amora laughed softly, allowing herself to melt into the fantasy. Gone was the smell of medicine and old herbs, gone was the sound of coughing in the night. Here, everything smelled of perfume and money, tasted of cocktails and success. Jason led her to a waiting car, sleek, black, expensive, while her eyes devoured the sights of a city that never knew hunger or suffering. The hotel where Jason took her was unlike anything Amora had ever imagined. Marble floors stretched endlessly beneath glittering chandeliers, tall windows flooded the rooms with golden light. The suite was vast and filled with things she had only seen in magazines, soft leather chairs, silk sheets, a bathroom gleaming with glass and gold. Jason flung open the balcony doors and pulled her to the edge, showing her the endless blue ocean rolling far below. "This is only the beginning, babe," he murmured, his breath warm against her neck. "Tomorrow, we shop. New dresses, real jewelry, designer shoes. You'll be the star at my yacht party next weekend." Amora's heart swelled with pride. At last, she had escaped. No more shameful village life, no more tending to her mother's endless sickness, no more poverty. She belonged here, in this world of beauty and power. That night, Miami sparkled like a sea of stars, and Amora let herself be swept away. Jason took her to a rooftop bar where rich men in crisp suits nodded at her and women with flawless skin and perfect teeth smiled politely. The music thumped softly in the background as waiters in white jackets poured glasses of golden champagne. Amora laughed, tossing her hair, delighting in the way heads turned as she passed. She felt alive, powerful, free. But as the night deepened, and the laughter around her grew loud and false, a tiny shadow crept into her heart, the memory of Mama Ebo's soft hand reaching for her, the quiet whisper asking her to stay. She pushed it away, drinking deeply from her glass. Here, she told herself, she would build her real life. She would never return to that house of sickness and sorrow. Yet in the mirror behind the bar, her own eyes stared back at her, not joyful, but empty, haunted by a distant pain she could not shake. The days in Miami blurred into a dizzying dream of pleasure and luxury. Jason spared no expense. Every morning, new boxes arrived, dresses in silk and satin, high-heeled shoes that gleamed like jewels, perfumes that smelled of distant gardens. Amora wandered through the sprawling malls, her arms full of shopping bags, her phone full of photos showing off her new life to Chidima and Ada. Her friends back home envied her fiercely, sending messages full of flattery and longing. "Babe, you don't blow. Miami fits you," they wrote. And Amora laughed, feeling like a queen. Yet in the quiet moments between parties, between dinners with Jason and his wealthy friends, a different silence crept in, the echo of her old life, a whisper from the past that would not die. She lay in the king-sized bed at night, staring at the ceiling, remembering the soft cough in the next room, the sound of Mama Ebo boiling herbs in the old kitchen. She told herself not to care. She was far from that world now. But the memories clung like dust. One afternoon, as she dressed for yet another yacht party, her phone buzzed softly on the table. She glanced at it without interest, another message from Chidima or Ada, no doubt begging for dollars or gossiping about the village. But it was not them. It was Mama Ebo. 6 missed calls. A message, simple and trembling in its words, "My daughter, please come home. I am not well." For a long moment, Amora stood frozen, the silk dress half zipped on her back, her heart pounding. Her mother's voice seemed to reach across the ocean, thin and desperate. She stared at the message, her breath catching. But then Jason called from the other room, telling her to hurry. "Babe, let's go. The yacht is waiting." And the spell broke. Amora threw the phone into her bag without replying, forcing a smile onto her face. "Come in, baby," she called, pushing away the quiet sorrow. She had chosen this life. She would not look back. But that night, as the yacht sailed under the moonlit sky, surrounded by laughter and flashing cameras, Amora felt the weight of her mother's words in her chest like a stone. She drank glass after glass of wine, trying to drown the voice that whispered in her ear, "Come home, please come home." Jason's arm around her waist felt heavy, suffocating. The lights of Miami glittered on the horizon, cold and distant. The sea stretched wide and dark beneath the boat, endless and empty, like the hollow space growing in her heart. No matter how far she ran, no matter how many diamonds she wore, the memory of Mama Ebo followed her, silent and sorrowful, waiting in the shadows of her mind. Amora laughed with the others, loud and false, but inside she trembled, feeling the first cracks in the shining world she had built. The night of Jason's grand birthday party arrived like a storm, full of noise and light. The yacht was a floating palace, draped in white lights, its decks crowded with the city's rich and beautiful. Music pulsed through the air, loud and heavy, as waiters in crisp black uniforms carried trays of champagne and exotic food. Jason was the king of the night, dressed in designer silk, a wide smile on his perfect face. And beside him, Amora glowed in a golden dress that clung to her curves, her hair piled high, her lips painted crimson. She smiled, posed for pictures, laughed at empty jokes, but inside her heart twisted with unease. Every time her phone buzzed in her bag, she felt a jolt of fear. Was it Mama Ebo again? Another message from home. She refused to look. She could not bear to see her mother's name, to read another plea. Not tonight. Tonight she was a queen. Tonight, she belonged to this glittering world. But the party was not as sweet as she had dreamed. The women whispered behind their champagne glasses, eyeing her with thin smiles and cold eyes. The men laughed too loudly, their stares lingering too long. Jason, drunk on attention and wine, barely noticed her after the first hour, his arms around other women, his smile flashing for the cameras. Amora wandered the deck alone, the night air cool against her bare shoulders. She checked her phone, 2 missed calls, 1 message from the neighbor back home. Her chest tightened. She opened it slowly, fear calling in her stomach. "Amora, please call. Mama is very sick tonight. She's asking for you. She keeps calling your name." The words burned her eyes. She swallowed hard, glancing around. No one noticed her, no one cared. Jason was laughing with a blonde woman at the bar. Her friends were thousands of miles away, feeding on her dollars and gossip. She was alone. She slipped away to the lower deck, the music fading behind her. The sea stretched endless and black beyond the rail, the lights of the city shimmering faintly on the horizon. The message played again in her mind, sharp and clear. "She's asking for you, she's calling your name." Amora gripped the rail, her heart pounding. A sudden wind stirred her hair, cold against her flushed skin. For the first time, the glittering dream of Miami cracked, and she saw the emptiness beneath. Jason's promises, her friend's flattery, the designer clothes, they were all hollow, worthless. And far away, in a dark, lonely room, her mother lay dying, her voice breaking in the night, calling for a daughter who had abandoned her. A tear slipped down Amora's cheek, cold and bitter. But she wiped it away, straightened her dress, and forced a smile as she climbed back to the bright, false world above. She could not break now. Not yet. The party was not over. The night in the village was darker than usual, heavy with a strange, pressing silence. The wind barely stirred the dry leaves outside Mama Ebo's window, the crickets had grown quiet, and even the stray dogs in the street lay still as if sensing the sour thickening in the air. Mama Ebo lay alone in her small room, her chest rising and falling in shallow, ragged gasps. The medicine bottle on the table was empty. Amora had taken the last monument for refilling it before she left for Miami. Each breath burned her chest like fire, her frail hands clutching the edge of the bed as she fought for air. Sweat glistened on her forehead, her night wrapper damp and clinging to her trembling frame. Her heart pounded wildly, struggling against the disease tightening its grip. She whispered her daughter's name, her voice breaking into a thin rasp, "Amora, my child, where are you?" But there was no answer, only the hollow creak of the wind slipping through the window cracks. The necklace lay untouched beside her pillow, shining dully in the moonlight, a forgotten gift for a daughter who no longer cared. For hours she battled the growing darkness inside her, her body weakening, her vision swimming in and out of focus. Her mind drifted to the past, long, sweet memories of when Amora was small and full of laughter, running barefoot through the compound, clutching ripe guavas and shouting with joy. Mama Ebo saw again the bright eyes that once lit up at the sight of her cooking, the small hands that used to cling to her wrapper, afraid of the dark. A soft sob escaped her lips as she realized how far her daughter had strayed from that innocent child. The pain in her chest sharpened, stealing her breath away. She turned her head slowly toward the door, hoping, praying, that Amora would come running in, smiling, saying, "Mama, I'm home." But the doorway remained empty. The clock ticked mercilessly in the corner, each sound dragging her closer to the end. Her neighbors, believing Amora was tending to her, had not come to check. No one knew that she was dying, alone, abandoned, forgotten. Tears slipped down her cheeks, soaking the pillow, mixing with the sweat of her struggle. Finally, as the first faint light of dawn broke the sky, Mama Ebo's strength gave way. Her body shuddered once, her hand groping blindly for the necklace, her last connection to love, to family, but it slipped from her fingers and fell soundlessly to the floor. Her eyes fluttered shut, her lips forming her daughter's name one last time, Amora, and then there was nothing. The weary heart that had endured so much pain, so many sacrifices, beat its last, falling silent in the quiet room. It was the neighbor's curious knock that broke the stillness an hour later, but by then it was too late. Mama Ebo's frail body lay cold on the bed, her spirit gone. The morning breeze stirred the thin curtain, carrying the scent of old herbs and bitter regret into the house. In Miami, a yacht sparkled beneath the sun. In the village, a life of love and sacrifice ended without witness, without comfort, without the daughter who should have held her hand. Amora's laughter rang out like crystal over the waves as Jason poured another glass of champagne, the music pulsing behind them on the grand yacht. She felt dizzy with pleasure, her body warm from drink and dancing. Around her, Miami's wealthiest smiled and toasted, praising Jason's generosity, complimenting Amora's beauty. She tossed her head, flipping her shining hair, feeling like a queen. The sea stretched wide and brilliant, the sky clear and blue, perfect for the grand birthday celebration. Jason leaned in close, whispering sweet promises in her ear, "Soon, babe, you'll have your own apartment here, your own car, anything you want." Amora giggled, her heart fluttering with excitement. The ache of guilt, the distant memories of home, had almost faded beneath the glittering mask of this new life. She glanced at her phone lying forgotten on the deck chair beside her but ignored it. There were no messages she wanted from Nigeria. She was far from that dusty world now, far from sickness and sorrow. But then the phone buzzed. Once. Twice. Again. The screen lit up insistently, breaking through the laughter and the music. Annoyed, Amora reached for it, her thumb swiping the screen. The name that appeared froze her blood, "Neighbor." Confused, she opened the message. The words struck her heart like a knife, "Amora. Mama has passed. She called your name before she died." The screen blurred as her vision swam, her breath catching in her throat. The phone slipped from her trembling fingers, falling to the deck with a sharp clatter. The world spun around her, the sea, the sky, the music, all turned hollow and distant. Jason turned, laughing, but stopped as he saw the pale horror on her face. "Babe. What's wrong?" he asked, but his voice sounded far away, lost in the roar of grief rising in her chest. Mama Ebo, gone. Alone. Dying while calling for the daughter who had betrayed her. For a long moment, the world stood still. Fireworks exploded over the water, painting the sky with light, but Amora felt only darkness. Around her, the party swirled on, music, laughter, dancing, but she stood frozen, her soul cracking apart. The images flooded her mind, Mama Ebo's frail hand holding out the necklace, her quiet plea to stay, the doctor's warning, and her own cold words, her careless laughter, her selfish dreams. She had left her mother to die alone. A sob broke from her throat, sharp and bitter. Jason touched her arm, frowning. "Amora. What is this? Don't spoil the night, come dance." But she pulled away, tears streaming down her face, her body shaking. It was too late. Far too late. No party, no yacht, no gold or silk could buy back what she had lost. Her mother's final breath had been spent on her name, and she had not been there to answer. Thank you for watching. Watch out for part 3.